Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is iRunShib, or Shib for short. I appreciate you being here today. The goal of this video is to dive into the Bard. We're going to be talking about the skills to use on the Bard in a PvP setting, the combos to use them in, and then we're going to implement all that stuff in some actual gameplay at the end of the video. Guys, when I first started playing Lost Ark, I thought there was zero chance I would even sniff the Bard. After being hands-on with the Bard for a while, I can't express enough how awesome this class is, especially in a PvP setting. All right, so I'm going to leave the skill build up as I normally do in these videos. You guys can check this out, pause it, or come back to this at any point. The only real change that I would allow or see as something that you can kind of venture off of this meta build would be when you're using your offensive buff, your Heavenly Performance, it's called in Russia, the tier 2 part of that tripod, instead of using AoE buff, which increases the distance it can reach allies and enemies by 25%, it will increase attack speed by 8%. That's something you can switch between and test out, but just so you guys know. So before we dive into abilities, I just want to say thank you so much to Fiend in my chat. She showed me a lot of love in allowing me to use her account. She's got a Bard that's deep in tier 3, and I've been spending a significant portion of time on this class ever since then. I got to be able to dive in. It's been an absolute pleasure, so thank you so much, Sophie, for that. So now let's get into the abilities and what they mean. The way I'm going to classify them for this video is offensive, buffs, and defensive/CC abilities. All right, so the first set of abilities we're going to dive into is offensive. And honestly, on the Bard, there's really only one of these abilities you're going to use, and that's Soundholic. Highly doubt that name's going to stick, but hey, it might. The way we have this thing built is it's essentially a laser beam that you're going to hold for a duration, and it's going to do more damage at the very end of the laser beam. Let me show you how that looks right now. As you can see, I'm hitting for 50s and 100s here, and the back guy was getting hit for 75 with critting for 145. The damage is greatly increased at the end, so when you have somebody stunned, it's great to try to pick them off with the very end of the ability. All right, so now that we talked about the single attack ability or the one offensive ability, let's get into the buffs. First, we have Indomitable Performance. This is an ability you're going to want to use in the heat of a battle. When you see an opportunity to push, it's your defensive buff. It's going to give a 15% shield to your allies. It's going to make it so you can't get interrupted while you're casting it. It looks like this. And also, last but not least, it gives a immune or push immunity to your teammates. This is so underrated and so overpowered. This skill is very strong, and I don't mean overpowered in the sense that it needs to be nerfed. It's just such a good part of her kit. After that, we want to talk about Heavenly Performance. This is your offensive ability. 8% attack speed increase, but it also gives you mana regeneration and 21% attack damage. You can actually increase the second tripod to make it an additional 8% attack speed. This is something that I see a lot of professional people using, but I also see some people using wide performances, which is typically what I like to use, because not only does this skill buff, but it also does damage, and it'll shove them. Do you notice how it kind of pushed them away? It can be strong in that aspect. Increasing the range of that is something I found to be useful. It also makes sure the buff hits my teammates that are far away. I love both these buffs, and these could definitely be considered the strongest part of the Bard's kit, but her defensive abilities are strong too, and let's go into those. Strap in, because finally we're going to get into the defensive abilities. Honestly, these things can set up team fights. They can set up your own abilities. They can peel teammates. They are incredibly strong. The first one we're going to talk about is Rhythm Buckshot. It looks like this. This move not only gives you push immunity, but will toss your allies a certain distance away. This is really, really strong in PvP. And honestly, it's really good for juggling. If you see teammates juggling somebody, it might be worth just throwing them again right up in the air. If they're pushing on you or you got a teammate down, you can push them away. It's very strong for protection. It can also be used offensively, but I consider it more of a defensive ability. The next ability we want to talk about, which is potentially one of our most strong or strongest peel abilities, is called Rhapsody of Light. It looks like this. This move is very strong. While using it, you are push immune, which is a pretty consistent theme with the Bard. It also gives 75% damage reduction to your allies within, gives them a 5% shield, and it will stun enemies with a mini stagger looking like this. You also take 50% reduced damage while using this ability, which is something that's baked into the build. This is a very strong peel move, and it should probably be your go-to for the most part when you see allies that are down or see an enemy trying to run away. You might be able to pick them off with it to slow them down. Okay, outside of Rhapsody of Light, we're going to follow up with my potential favorite ability called Overture of Storm. It is a stun ability that throws laser beams in a distance looking like this. Setting up for your damage, setting your allies up for damage. It's just very, very, very strong. Great setup, great peel, great initiation, and very fast. It's a very fast stun. Another strong defensive move is March. This move lets you start running in any direction you want to aim. You will then drop these defensive notes in a location that if they'll also heat seek, but if they get near them, they'll heat seek them and drop their movement speed by 30% for 2 seconds. So strong for peeling, so strong for setting up moves. And the combo could look something like this. Running them down with a slow. Now I can land my stun without any issue. And then I'll hit him with my damage at the end of the ability to do extra damage. The final move to talk about in the defensive setup is Sonic Vibration. This move is awesome. It's going to put an AoE on the ground, then lift your allies up and dunk them into the ground, keeping them on the ground, setting up for more abilities. This thing keeps you stagger immune. Like I said, it's a strong CC. It's also a great area denial tool, which is something you might get used to for somebody that plays something like Artillerist, a guy. You might throw it on the ground in a location just to make sure enemies don't run through it so they don't screw themselves. So now let's talk about the bars, identity skill or inherent ability on the class. You're gonna look down here, you'll have 3 bars. As you land skills, these bars will fill up. After you get each bar filled up, you have the opportunity to use 2 different moves. One of which is a damage buff for your team, and one of which is a heal for your team. The heal, obviously, in my opinion, is much more prevalent, much more important on the PvP scene, unless you're in an overtime situation on ranked. So let me just show you quickly. As you fight, this bar will slowly fill up, and your goal is to try to get all 3 bars, because therefore it maximizes the ability. Like I said, you're going to want to try to use Serenade of Salvation. I'm sure it'll be called something different in the West, because that is your heal. When it's fully maxed, this heal does 8% of your max health 16 times in 16 different ticks on the center of the ability. It looks like this. This heal will be spread across every teammate that's inside of it. It's super strong in PvP, and the goal is trying to get as much of these heals out as possible. Obviously, getting it to tier 2 or tier 3 on the bar is the best way to use the skill, in my opinion, but use it as you need it. You'll also have stagger immunity as you're using the ability. One major buff that recently happened on the Korean servers, which I'll show you here, is that now when a bar is only halfway filled, it won't be used. It used to be the case that when you had 2.5 bars and you tried to use the ability, it would use all of those bars. But now that half bar will stay in the future, which is actually a massive buff, but I don't think it gets enough, enough recognition. And that's going to be super strong in the PvP scene as well. Also note, you're going to want to use the Symphonia ulti because honestly, it's just really strong. You float up into the sky like this. You're going to throw a shield and do damage to people around you, but you're going to throw a shield to all the allies in your location. It's a massive shield. It's great for any situation, defensively and offensively. There's no real argument into using the other ulti on PvP. All right, everybody. So that's going to do it for the skills and combos portion of the video. Before we dive into the actual gameplay where we implement all this stuff that we talk about, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. If you like my stuff, I would greatly appreciate a follow on any of my socials. They'll all be linked in the description below. And if you like this stuff, consider subscribing here, throwing this video a thumbs up. It all means the world to me. We also have a huge Discord where we're going to be talking guild, talking shop, talking Lost Ark at all times. Please feel free to join up if you want some friends to hang out and talk about the game with. We're also obviously going to be making guilds and adding to our guild, expanding, etc. That's all going to be talked about in the Discord, so feel free to join up. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I love you guys. Yeah, he's horrible. He goes, support me, don't support the wrong guy, but he's really bad, so it's just super tilting to see that shit be said. Fuck out of my house. Oh, there it is. Love the song. Get dunked. Here's ult. Shit. Fallen? Let's go. Dunk him. No way. No way. No, I can't get it. Let's go. She's triggered. her up. Arcanas. Jesus, chill. Get picked. I'm these kids' worst nightmare, bro. Should be dead. Got him. Auto attack. Suck it. Can he have a perfect game, folks? He just might. Oh, not like this, bro. We win though. Is that shield? Woo! What, you know what's asked me at LA PvP? Yo, if you have any questions, Bite, I got your back, baby. I didn't die there, by the way. I popped off. I carried the whole team. See, this is the funny part. I guess he did all right. He did do all right. I did more damage than our summoner, which is really bad for her. Really bad for her.